sometimes you have to hit rock bottom, or in Joe's case, run into a situation that you never want to experience again in order for you to realize it's time to make a change. And Joe had that experience in his life before he got into real estate. And if you really want to hear a crazy, interesting story that motivated Joe to find his passion in real estate, check out this conversation. Joe, welcome to the show, buddy.
Well, thank you. I am very excited to be here.
Hey,
Jared.
we're excited too. This is going to be a fun one.
Yes.
And if you don't laugh by the end of this, something's wrong.
Something's wrong. Yeah, so Arena has a lot of content, and this specific content, me and Courtney co-host these segments, and we just talk with residential real estate professionals just about them, about how they handle hard deals and how they market their business, because that's what we like talking about. And part of this is here to promote you. So I'm excited for more people to get to know Joe.
The
I'm
man
excited
behind the
too.
mustache.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, this is relatively new though, so I don't know if I'm going to keep it or not.
It's okay. We don't have to bring
But
this the man behind the
this
mustache.
is a good way to get people to know. How long does it take you to grow that mustache? Like,
Probably about 3 days.
yeah, I mean, come on, dude. Like, so you in theory, you can.
Are you Italian?
I am.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
So
it tracks.
I'm Italian, French, and Lebanese. So it's like I feel
All
like
of that makes sense.
It's like the hairiest parts of the world, and it just like comes out here. So I've been called Mario before, but I don't know. We'll see. How
I
it
can
goes.
see that. I mean, I this takes me about 8 weeks to grow, and it's like
And this takes me about 9. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, patchy and not thick at all. But I just don't feel like trimming my beard every day, so I just let it ride.
I feel it.
All right, so cool. So we've gotten to know each other pretty well over the last couple of weeks, but I'm interested to know more about how you got into the real estate business and what you did before that. I know we talked a little bit about it when we were at that open house at one time. I think that has kind of got you where you're at today a little bit, and your family's in real estate. So let's talk a little bit about Joe. How did you get into the game?
Absolutely. So before real estate, I guess I'll start from the beginning.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
That's the point of this.
So when you're in your mother's room, I'm just
Bam.
kidding.
No. So I went to a small private school in Tennessee. Grew up in middle of nowhere, Georgia, basically Peachtree City. It kind of gives Terabella vibes, believe it or not.
Nice.
It was a golf cart community. And anyways, went to college, small private school in Tennessee, got a public relations degree. And then real life hit, and I was just like, well, what the heck do I do now?
Yeah.
And moved down here. So my mom's side of the family all lives in New Orleans area.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my stepdad worked on boats. He was a river pilot for a little while. And immediately went out there. And I used to be a deckhand on a ship assist tugboat.
Holy cow.
And I hated my life.
So
Long
I
story
remember
short.
when you and I first met, you would have period of times where you'd go off and
Yes.
do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did that for probably 4 or 5 years.
Was it you that was telling me the story that you were on the river during Ida?
We'll get there.
That was
We'll
you.
get there,
I
bro.
forgot who told me that story. I
You can't give them all of it up front. We're
That-
gonna
no,
get there.
that's epic.
We're gonna get there. So yeah, it was a time for sure. I remember just always being like, I know, like my personality is meant for so much more than going away every other week and then coming back and just being like, well, what do I do in my life now?
Yeah.
So it was a time. I think it got to like a depressing state too. But I think that's like what life brings if you're not in something you're not supposed to be in.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
if
I
you're in
think-
something you're not supposed to be in.
Yeah, when people just go in, clock out, and they're not passionate about it, you get burned out, or you just get to that point where I feel like life's pointless,
Literally.
right? Like I'm on the hamster wheel.
But there's also that point in everybody's life where it's a breaking point where you make a decision because you're like, literally, there's nothing, I'm not going to do this anymore. Like you make a decision in your life that you're going to look forward. I mean, I can tell you three instances off the top of my head in my life that I got to that point, and you had to get to that point for you to be able to realize, like, now it's time for me to turn around and figure something else out.
Right.
And, I'm hoping the story of you on the river and the hurricane is what that gets you there.
I think it is. I think it is. I guess I'll jump into it. So I think overall what made me officially consider doing something else was my time during Ida. I mean, like I said, I was feeling depressed and I was just away, and I don't know, like I didn't even know myself at some point, But I mean, like I said, if you're in something you're not called to do, you're going to feel like that for a reason.
Yeah.
Sure.
So,
But before you get into that,
yeah.
I'm going to cliffhanger here. There's got to be some part of that whole experience in your life that you are thankful for.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm sure it taught you a skill set. I'm
Absolutely.
sure. Or it could have just been a stepping stone that, like, hey, whether it taught you a skill set or, hey, it helped pay some bills. Or, I met someone through it or whatever.
It was a very safe job. It, like monetary.
Yes.
I
it's
mean,
very much
in
known
that
for
in that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely thankful for that. What I think I'm super thankful for is the ability it brought me to essentially be able to connect with anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's
Meet all sorts of people.
right. I mean, it's just the exact opposite of who I am now.
I
Yeah.
married
You know?
into a maritime family, and so yeah, they're almost all of them.
Unique.
You can say that.
Yeah. So they're good people. I mean, two, I'm currently working with one of my first mate to find a house. I sold my engineer a house.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was an amazing
relationship, yeah.
experience for when I was in that area.
And then
if that
I'd
makes
hit.
sense. And then I'd have hit. And then I think it was just,
So
it's time to jump.
So there was a level you felt like you were like kind of losing yourself.
Absolutely.
It was not it was a job, but maybe not the right job for
The
you.
right job.
Yeah.
So I refer to it as a calling, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then, like I said, if you're not in something you're happy with, you have to move or you're just there. So Ida hit. Should I get into it now?
Yeah, go. Yeah, let's hear it.
So Ida was coming, and keep in mind, like, it was like, what is it now? 3 years ago, I think.
Yeah, it was in 21. So that was, 4 years ago. And what was your rotation? 1 week on, 1 week off?
I was 7 days on, 7 days off.
Okay. And it's kind of like when you're on a rotation, again, I married into maritime. It's like whether it's a holiday, you just get stuck with that schedule, good, bad, or ugly. And then obviously we have hurricane season and stuff like that. So you're on the water.
Yes. So I remember going out that week and not knowing.
Sure.
So originally, Ida wasn't as bad as it
Yeah.
No,
came
it's
to
not
be.
always heading here.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
So I remember there was something, there's always something out there.
Yeah.
So I go out, just doing my week. So I used to do 4 p.m.s to 4 a.m.s. And then it started. So we were tied up in Luling. And I think Luling got it like the
worst. Yeah, down there.
Wow.
Jefferson Parish.
We were tied up in
no,
Luling.
I think Luling, St. Charles or
Yeah,
something
but I mean, like that,
Yeah.
West Jefferson Parish, St. Charles Parish.
I don't even remember what it got to be, like a 4 or something crazy. So I remember being out there. We were tied up. I was just like, okay, it's just gonna be like a normal watch. And then it just hit. The river started like flowing upwards, and you never see that. Like that's that's like a
Sure.
phenomenon.
The water starts doing all sorts of crazy
Right.
things.
So the river starts flowing up. We start like just going up and down, up and down. I'm like, okay, this will be the night. And I'll just, I'll sit up here, play on my phone, check the lines every now and then, and it's just not what happened. So eventually it got worse. So barges started breaking loose coming down the river.
So you have like a massive version of a projectile that's like in the water.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Yes. Barges started breaking loose.
I do remember that.
It was insane. It was scary. So
You can see out the window watching all this happen.
barely.
Yeah.
Barely. So you hear people yelling, like you hear other
On
boats.
2 ways on like the radio.
Yeah, on the radio, just on the VHF. So which is just the radio.
Yeah.
But just other mariners just yelling like so and so barges broke loose here, so and so here. Then you have the ships yelling for like help of some kind. It was the most insane experience of my life.
I can only imagine.
And then we broke loose, and then a line got caught in our wheel, and then we were just at the mercy of the river. And so I remember thinking at one point, I'm just like, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
Like you just need to start like praying, like make your peace now. It's gonna happen. So my mom was texting me. I was like, I'm not gonna respond. And like you can't see like out the river at all, like or out the windows at all, because the river is just so high up, and then like the dirt from the bottom of the river, like the sediment is like coming up and hitting the windows. I couldn't see what was happening. It was the
And then on
most
top, you've
insane
got the
thing.
wind and the rain that's like, making the visibility difficult. All right. So, you're talking to Jesus, making peace, being like, this might be my night. And how many people did you guys have on?
So there were crews of 4.
Okay.
So it was essentially me.
Some trauma bonding happening
Oh,
there.
100%. I still talk to those guys. Me, a 70-something-year-old dude who just recently passed.
Oh, wow.
My captain, I think, is mid-50s. And then my engineer at the time, he's probably like 30s, and then me. So we break loose off where we were tied up. We somehow get pushed back we run aground. We get pushed back into land.
So you're on the bank.
Yes. And at that point, we're all just kind of looking, and I'm just like,
At any point, do you think to abandon the vessel?
oh, we're getting there. So they're all just like thinking and looking, and then I think we're all just like taking in like what just happened, because if we would have ran into anything, like the boat's going under.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I like look around, and I'm like, well, are we gonna get off, or are we just gonna sit
What's
here?
protocol in this?
Right.
Like, and then are we abiding by protocol, and we're just throwing all hell to the wind and then
Right.
abandoning it?
Saving ourselves, yeah.
So we formulated a plan of one of us jumping off and going to tie a rope around a tree, and then
Some sort of
essentially-
anchor.
Yes, essentially, like we were going to use it just to get each other off. We didn't care
Yeah.
about the boat at that point.
Yeah, at that point, the company can take
Right.
what I mean, and I'm sure at that point, the company is also like, shit, we have employees
Yeah,
Right.
on that
there
boat.
during
Right.
a storm.
So, and I mean, it was so basically we all get down to the bottom of the deck. We get on the deck, and we're like looking out, and like the rain hurts
Yeah.
because it's going so fast.
Mm-hmm.
So I like look around, and like there's the 70-year-old, there's the 50-year-old, and the 38-year-old or whatever has knee problems. I'm like, brother, you're first. Like,
Yeah.
you're sacrifice. So
Mm-hmm.
I put on my life jacket and went over to the side and jumped.
Yeah.
And then I lost my balance for a second. I'm like, there's no way I'm dying like this. And I just remember crawling up the side of the bank
Yeah.
and going up there. And eventually we all get off. And then the wind was so strong, we had to walk like arm in arm like this. And it was still like pushing us back.
Yeah.
And then we finally got to our office, and it was just like, my blood pressure is like 200 over God knows what. It was insane. So.
Well, first of all, I'm thankful that you're here.
Yeah.
Oh yes, what an experience though. I'm thankful for the experience, but I'm also very thankful I lived.
Exactly. Also, never again, please.
No,
Yeah, like one and done.
I'll never.
No more tickets to
spend-
that ride.
Did you have your real estate license at this point?
No, I was So I remember, believe it or not, that week I brought the study book with me
On the
Okay,
boat.
so
on the
so,
boat. Yes,
Did you get that off the boat, or that's still wet somewhere?
I don't know where that thing is. I ended
That's
up doing
fine.
it online. That's the rivers.
Yeah, let the river have what she wants. So let's talk to what. So obviously, you're like premeditating before Ida.
Mhm.
I'm not in the right place for me.
Mhm.
You're considering other options. Was it your mom? Like what pointed you to real estate?
My mom's been in it. My mom was in it for a while.
Mhm.
I think so. I was in mortgage for just a teensy beensy of a second, and I was like a processor, so I didn't really have much.
You weren't on the sales side.
No,
Yeah.
I worked with the sales, one of the sales. So I was a loan officer's assistant, basically.
Okay,
Okay.
cool.
So he one day was like, "Hey, if we can close 15 this month, I'll give you $500 in cash." And I feel like that was like my first opening to like any kind of like sales position ever. I'm like,
Yeah, like
I am going to get all
performance
15 of-
equals this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, me, it used to be when I managed the marina, it was like, if you hit this, we'll do a pizza party. I was like, and it's just me, so I can go get the custom pizza. Like,
Right.
like the
Pizza,
fancy
right.
one. And so, not like let's go get down, like whatever the cheapest is for volume. It was like, I can go get the fancy
When
nice
you're
one.
competitive, it's pretty
Whatever incentive.
ridiculous how little something can be to get you really motivated.
I
to
mean,
go
come
do.
on. We all do, like, we've done races for freaking a beer and a t-shirt,
Yeah.
sometimes a banana.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, okay. So you were like, okay, something in me is like motivated by some of this stuff. I
Yes.
like that if like my actions equal XYZ.
Mhm.
Your mom, you did the mortgage background, your mom had, was in it. Like, so
Mhm.
what did that decision to look like to like get your real estate license?
Honestly, yeah, I really liked the fact of being able to work for myself.
Yeah.
And then I take the fiduciary role like very seriously, which I'm sure what you both can understand.
Yeah.
I think it's just the fact that I just love people.
Yeah.
You're
You're genuine. You're easily one of the most genuine people that I interact with. And there's a huge part to that. It's like to caring about the other side.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's huge. And it comes through.
Absolutely.
And
Well,
but I
thank
think
you.
and Courtney says this a lot. Real estate is not about buying and selling houses, or that's a small piece of it. It's mostly about the relationships that you build,
100%.
the people that you're doing it with, whether that's the partners that you do business with, and the clients that we serve. I mean, we're all here trying to provide a service, and the only way that we can continue to grow, and the way that we make money, and the way that we add value to the community is to do a good job and help the person person we're building a relationship with accomplish something they're trying to accomplish.
Absolutely.
And we just get the benefit of doing that in such a intimate part of people's lives that it really makes a difference whenever we can create a great experience for them and help them solve a problem like Courtney does, or help them provide for their family. It makes a big deal. And I agree with you. There's a lot of areas of the law that you can go into, and I didn't know I wanted to do this until I got really late in law school, even afterwards. And I'm very thankful that this is where I have settled on, because I just get to build relationships with you and help you accomplish a goal, and Courtney accomplish a goal, and then we can do all that reciprocally. But also the people that come into our conference rooms every week, the buy and sell house, it makes a huge difference to be able to do something that's so rewarding.
Absolutely.
I believe. And you go from what you were doing before, which, some people look at it as 9 to 5, you pay your bills, you go home and hang out with your family, but like
It's a means to an end.
Yeah. Other people have a desire to do more that hopefully can put money in their pocket, but really at the end of the day, you want to make a bigger impact. And
Absolutely.
I have a feeling that's what you were working on whenever you were there.
100%.
I think there's something to be said, though. The younger generations have more. We watched our parents clock in, slave away at, for some employer, whatever. And we just decided at the cost they paid for that, go work for whatever, how many years it is. And just, you work so hard, and, your employer doesn't really care about you, or whatever that looks like. You get gypped on your pension. Hey, we don't even have pensions anymore, barely, or those things. I think the younger generations, we truly are like, we care about fulfillment. Like, money is not the only thing we chase.
110%.
And it's like such a very common thing where people, again, I think people who are 40 and younger, I'm hearing, like, I think there was a shift there. And so we're seeing, that's no longer what people value, is like a stable job with, like, salary and benefits, and just let me clock in, let me get paid, let me pay the bills. It's what, like, basically, am I fulfilled by what I do? And it's like, I'm not saying everyone needs to go be, an artist, a starving artist. But because you can become fulfilled by many different things, right? But it's not just go take your passion and chase it. It's also, can you find a passion in something, for example, like helping people, and it can be done in a job like, being a realtor, helping people buy, sell, and invest.
Absolutely. I feel like no one has ever reached a level of massive success by just being safe. So at some point you have to take a jump. At some point you have to trust your gut. At some point you have to understand your personality is bigger than a deckhand on a tugboat, and just jump.
So I want to ask you one last question before we transition. So you took the test, you became a realtor, you were still doing the maritime job for a period of time. Did you ever have a moment when you're like, this is what I was meant to do?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. What was
Absolutely.
that? Tell us about that moment.
So my first ever sale was a seller, and he was originally for sale by owner. I didn't know what I was doing, right?
Sure.
I was just going home every week calling this guy I found on, like, I think it was Craigslist. He didn't have there was no hope.
And look, I'm not gonna lie, Craigslist, you're always like, is this real?
Right.
Especially
So-
these days.
So I called him up. We talked for a little while. I sent him, like a note card, like a handwritten note card. I did the things, right?
Sure.
And then I think it was like 4 or 5 days, and he was under contract. And in my head, I'm like, oh, I am so good at this. If this is what real estate is, I just got something under contract in 4 or 5 days. I'm brand spanking new. So at the end, though, it was just, and I didn't even get to go to the closing because I was at work, of course. But we talked before, and he's like, thank you so much. And I sent my mom, and she was like, just so you know, he said that, oh, he's real good. He sold it in only 4 days. And I'm like, I know. But I think that's just like that part of the job. It just makes you happy in a certain way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like I said, it's deeper than, because we're not promised a paycheck. You know what I'm saying? Like I got to wake up and get it for the next maybe 30, 60, 90 days.
Yeah.
But it's deeper than a paycheck for sure. It's about
Yeah.
helping other people.